A revelation that will boggle the mind. Are we in the last days and is Babylon falling? If you have heard of the term the Matrix, then you have probably come across the notion that suggests that this reality is not the real world, but is rather a figment of somebody's imagination. And that so-called somebody is actually an elite organization of world leaders, the so-called elites, or the people above us. Well, these are the modern interpretations of what the Bible describes as Babylon. And the fall of Babylon is actually the disruption of the elusive world and its systems that oppress and marginalize God's chosen ones. A brother describes this phenomenon in more details. He tells us which generations are chosen to witness this collapse, and what he says afterwards will shock you. We're not promoting fear or anything, we're just spreading awareness and the good gospel that people seem to have forgotten about. And this brother leads the way into this video. Leave your thoughts in the comments as we begin.
So this is a message from Source. If you are alive right now, then you are in the era of destruction. Let me make it clear. Babylon is falling. This system that you was spawned into is falling, it's crumbling. And we are in the so-called end days. Just like Revelations in the Bible, I'm not a fan of the Bible or organized religion, but I am a fan of ancient codes and ancient texts and books and knowledge. So we are in the last days of this era, not the end of the world, of this era and this system. This system and its wicked ways will be done away with. So if you are alive right now, you are and will be witnessing this system crumbling. And there's so many signs of this system crumbling around us. It's just a matter of paying attention. So with this being said, if you are alive right now, within the next 2 generations, I'm going to say, this generation, Gen Z, and the generation after that, which is Alpha, will be the generations that's going to experience the falling of this system. So with this being said, there won't be any more normal days. It's going to continue to get more weird. Like after lockdown, if you expecting peaches and cream after lockdown and you thinking they ain't gonna have nothing else up their sleeve, you thought wrong. You thought wrong. Because this system is falling. There is no time to just play and lollygag. You got it during this time, mentally, physically, and spiritually. Because if you're not, you're gonna fall by default. You're gonna fail by default if you're not. So there is no time to be in fear, especially if you claim to be spiritual. There is no time to be in fear, only time to stand in your power. By y'all being in fear, by things happening within this system, it's only leaving you vulnerable to spiritual attacks and frequency attacks. Let's keep it real. So stand in your power. There is no time to be afraid during this time, because in your lifetime, the person that's watching this video, you will get to experience one of the best movies there possibly could be in this universe, which is on Earth. The fall of Babylon, the fall of this system, the fall of these false illusions and false social structures is crumbling. This falling, and I'm one of the ones to initiate war. So I don't have time to be afraid or be feeling the emotions of fear. I don't have time to do that. That's like going to war and you in battlefield and you scared, but you the one that signed up for it. How you do that? No, you don't have time to feel fear. You only have time to stand in your power. And that's the way you're going to go out, not being scared. So again, I'm going to say it again. If you are alive right now, and if you plan to have children, you and your children and possibly your children's children will get to experience the fall of Babylon, because it's only going to continue to get worse. I promise you. It's more coming.
Now, that's the brother's perspective on that enlightening discussion about Babylon. Isn't that intriguing and profound? And I know most of you who are not spiritually awakened, like myself here, are boggled. But let's get into the discussion about what Babylon is according to the Bible. In the Bible, particularly in the book of Revelation, Babylon is depicted as a symbol of a great moral and spiritual corruption. Revelation 18 describes the fall of Babylon as a significant event in the end times. The city is portrayed as being judged and destroyed by divine retribution due to its sins and its role in leading others astray. Does that remind you of something? Perhaps the good old land of the free, maybe? The imagery used is vivid, indicating total devastation and the complete collapse of this symbolic entity, representing the ultimate defeat of corruption and evil. Which reminds me, doesn't the Bible also say that you shall know that the end is near when you see that the Euphrates has begun to dry up? Or perhaps when the Euphrates is actually dried up. And in the modern world, or right now as we are talking, the Euphrates River has actually dried up. And if you search videos online on YouTube, even on TikTok, you're gonna find out for yourself what people are saying about the end. And what seems to be an image of a petrified angel, a giant, a huge angel, was found after the Euphrates dried up. Now, I'm not saying it's the actual angel, but the details on this thing are outstandingly astonishing. And people are saying it's actually a real angel that was petrified because of God's curse. But like I said in the beginning of this video, we're not promoting fear or anything, just the good old gospel that people should know about. Now, many view Babylon as a symbol of moral and spiritual corruption. That means it is representing any society or institution that opposes divine principles and engages in practices deemed sinful or unjust. So anything that you see spiritually that is unclean and practices immoral things in God's eyes, that's Babylon. Now, it's a whole society, perhaps an institution, or even a country that practices this at a larger scale, even impacting others or those around it to even practice or participate in this immoral act. Some scholars interpret Babylon as representation of ancient Rome, particularly in the context of Revelation due to its oppressive nature and persecution of early Christians. But you gotta remember that anything that took place in history does also happen in the future, because they say that history repeats itself. So that means that if Babylon was there in the past and it happened at some point, that means even where we're heading, it's happening. That's the reason why this brother is talking about something that is happening currently. Babylon is sometimes seen as a metaphor for contemporary cities or nations that are perceived as centers of materialism, immorality, or moral decline. I guess that text was plain and easy to understand. Another interpretation is that Babylon represents global economic systems or corporations that are seen as exploiting or corrupting societal values. Just look at how they are trying to replace actual food with rubber or plastic, food that is not real. Right? And at the same time, they're trying to create this other matrix or these goggles on your face where you can go into this alternate reality away from this real world that we call the real world into something unreal. Like, what is this? The other one is that Babylon can also be viewed as a symbol of perversive cultural influences that lead people away from spiritual or ethical ideals. Now, when you think about indigenous lands such as the African land or the great old Americas before the palm coloreds colonized it, these were lands that were laid by spiritual people, right? Diviners, people that could communicate with the divine and also disseminate that information to the people around them. But after the influence of the palm color man came with colonialism, all that got wasted away. Things such as technology further exacerbated the notion of divinity, right? And those that would continue practicing these practices or ancient practices would be ridiculed, and people just gave them up, right? Because everybody wants to be on social media now, so it wouldn't be normal for you to live a normal life. You're gonna find yourself engaging in some of these activities. Why? Because why would you want to be left out? Like, who would want to be left out? Now, in the beginning of this video, I did mention the Matrix. So the Matrix is an elusive world created by the influence of the global leaders that want to marginalize us. Just think about whiteness or palm colorness that was created in the 17th century. Now, that concept itself is a system that created an elusive world or veil that palm-colored would perceive themselves as more superior, right? So it's a system that world influences created. It's a matrix in a way. Now, the concept of the matrix, as popularized by the film and metaphorically used to describe manipulative systems or deceptive realities, underscores the need for awareness and change. The matrix, in this sense, represents any construct that obscures truth and restricts individual freedom. It could be a metaphor for societal norms, media manipulation, or technological control that distorts our understanding of reality. Now, when we talk about all these these are things that are happening around us. We're talking about media representation of black people being depicted as more violent than other races in movies. That is just one of the few many systems out there that promote this elusive idea of a fake world called the Matrix. In such a fake world, anything can happen. You can be a prisoner while maybe in the real world, you are even the creator or one of the major leaders of the galaxies. Hey, it's allowed to think big, isn't it? Now, that summarizes our discussion about this brother's revelation about Babylon falling. Leave your thoughts in the comments and tell me what you liked about today's video. And do you agree with that notion, or what do you think? Hey, it is important for us to have these discussions, and that is the reason why we share our perspective with you so that you can leave yours in the comment section. Signing off, take care, and I'll see you in the next one.